Okay, so there's a new article I have out. It's called The Problem with Marketing to People Who Haven't Asked for It. In that article, we're going to talk a lot about how the world has changed a lot since the advent of the commercial internet, allowing so many advertisers online to put their marketing messages out there. As a result, most consumers will turn off. Most consumers just don't want to hear more marketing messages all the time, and their brains just tune them out. So going for this kind of approach of interruption-based marketing, where we try and sell things to people just by brute force, showing them messages and just repeating the brand name until they get it in their heads, is really, really inefficient for the majority of businesses. Instead, marketing in such a way where we ask people to put their hands up and get them to say, yes, I'm interested in this, I have this problem, I'm looking for help solving this problem, and then creating a relationship with them through that is a much more effective way of growing a business. Now, I cover this in a lot of depth in the article, and here I want to cover a couple of these points that I've got written up on the board. The first and foremost one is I want to go over the reason of why it's such an inefficient method of marketing to just try and blast your marketing messages at people who just aren't asking for it. Now, it really comes to a point of opportunity cost, which means the time of the people in the business could be spent a lot better doing other tasks to grow it. This comes from an issue where people go for the thing of the shortest cause and effect. They think, well, I want to get a growth of new business, which is the effect, and so I'll do the cause of bringing up people who can potentially buy, something like cold calling, right? That is something with a very short cause and effect to one and the other. But it's not a very effective tool when you think of how many people you have to call to play the numbers game. There's a lot of people who have to be phoned and a lot of no's that have to be heard in order to actually get new customers in. So instead, things like search engine optimization, of allowing people to search for a certain term and then your business being at the top, okay, they click on the link, they get the information they were looking for, but then all you need is about 1% of that audience. So we've seen with our clients, to then get an extra couple of £10,000, multiples of £10,000 per month, every month, just from search traffic, just from about 1% of the audience. So why waste your time with an audience who aren't interested in buying from you? And instead, when you could be spending your time with a smaller percentage of them who have already proven that they're willing to buy. A customer is a customer is a customer. When someone has proven that they're willing to spend for something, we've got to look after those relationships. Those are people who've shown that they're ideal clients. We want to be able to really nurture those people and turn them into lifelong clients of ours, especially if it's a problem that can be solved over and over again for them. We want those kinds of people. Not everyone is going to buy from us. There's millions of people, billions of people on the planet even, and the vast majority won't give you money. So if we just focus on the small few who will and really focus on looking after them, businesses can grow to the tunes of millions of pounds. We've seen it with the insights of our own clients. Again, in the article, I show more examples of that. I show examples of my clients and how they've been able to grow their business. I show my own examples too. I use these same principles and I apply them in my own business. I won't speak to someone who has disqualified themselves as a buyer. So we make it very easy for people to do business with us. We make it very easy for people to give us a small nominal amount of money to say, yeah, I see you guys are experts. I see, this is a problem I want to solve. And as such, I can buy this really inexpensive thing from you. And if they're not willing to do that, even if they say something along the lines of, I want to talk to my husband, or something like, I want to think about it. We say, yeah, okay, you can do that. Please go and think about it. We'll speak to you later. And we just let them go. There's no objection handling. They just go and go and leave. Purely from the reason of they have proven that they're not ideal buyers. We saw this when we looked at our best clients and saw how they come into the business, and we saw that they all have no problem with paying for a first initial consultation with us. To get some consultancy, they were willing to pay. So as such, we have that as a mechanism so that we don't waste our time with people who are happy to pretend they'll pay but won't actually give money. So, it's fine to do that in a charity, right? It's fine to give a whole bunch of stuff for free in a charity, but when you're running a business, it makes a lot more sense to make it so that you're looking after the people who are willing to increase your revenue. So the second thing I have here is that marketing to everyone, which is different from advertising to everyone, positions you very badly. If you're trying to convince everyone that they should buy from you, there's an undertone that makes you look a bit needy and poor, right? Makes it look like the business isn't doing well at all, and it really shows that you're really needing new business. There's way too much emphasis on the outcome. The salesperson cares way too much about the outcome. They're too outcome dependent, and as such, it makes them needy. Just the sub-communication of the dynamics of salesperson and prospect just goes all wrong. When the salesperson needs the sale too much, the prospect can pick up on it. They can see that they need the sale too much. It's really obvious. Just the sub-communication. It might just even be a gut feeling that comes up that says, "Yep, this guy needs the sale too much. I don't want it." And as such, they'll walk away. And that really messes up the mentality of the salesperson. It can really get into their heads, especially when their value that they place on themselves is really based around closing a deal, compared to if we instead have salespeople where, it's just about following the process. It doesn't matter if they say yes, it doesn't matter if they say no. I mean, it's nice if they say yes because you get commission. But on the other side, we're here to make sure that we are looking after the interests of our clients, and we're here to make sure that they're doing what's right for them. It's one example in some of my clients' businesses, people will come to them literally on the phone with wallets in hand, ready to give money, and they say, no, not yet. They say, come in and see us first, and then if it's a fit, then you can pay us. That's good positioning. That shows they're not needy. That business as well does multiple 7 figures in revenue, right? And they have a thing where they're positioning themselves so well, people are coming wallet in hand, and they're saying no. Because then they're going the opposite of this. They've positioned themselves well. They've positioned themselves as a expert prestige business who looks the opposite of that. The third point here is that when you are trying to search through your whole audience, it's like looking for a diamond needle in a haystack. So if we had a haystack of 2,000 pieces of hay, I think it's called blade of hay, I don't really know, but that's a side point. You have 2,000 pieces of hay, and you get a new one every 28 days. Just 2,000 pieces come in front of you. And I told you there was about 2 pieces in there that were guaranteed to be worth 20 grand in total to you if you found those needles. There was another 8 that might be, and there's another 3 that look exactly the same but aren't worth being in front of whatsoever. Well, how would you sift through those? Because some people would say they just go through it by hand. Now, if you're the business owner, that's really bad because you've got other tasks you need to be doing, like looking after the company as a whole. But if you hired salespeople and just had them flick through it all, it's really monotonous and it's really time consuming to go through that all. Again, high opportunity cost. So instead, when we get, this is website traffic, by the way. This is an analogy for your website traffic. So each piece of hay is a site visitor. Instead of spending your time talking to all 2,000, going through every single piece of hay, you can instead have like a magnet next to the needles and they'll come forward. The needles will tell you where they are. They'll tell you which ones are the needles. So instead, by having a sorting mechanism, you can save so much time and make it so that your salesperson is then just working out which ones are the valuable ones at the end compared to having to call up 2,000 people in a row, which is the kind of marketing where you're trying to just get in front of everyone without them asking for it. So the main takeaway from this is get people to raise their hands and agree to participate in the marketing process before you start marketing to them. At that stage, once they've agreed to it, you have their attention. They've agreed that they want to hear more about it. They've raised their hand, they've said, yes, I want to do this. And then you've also got the option for them to put their hands back down. They might unsubscribe, they could opt out, they could send you something saying, hey, I don't want to be contacted anymore. And as such, you leave them alone. You say, okay, cool, that's fine. We want to do this in a very highly leveraged way, so we're not wasting our time with people who just are never going to pay us. So get people to raise their hands, provide them a whole bunch of value, show that you can solve their problems, and then allow the ones from that audience with their hands up to show you which ones are willing to then get their wallet out on the other hand. So I hope you found that useful. This video is an accompaniment to the article. If you've read that, I also highly recommend you read some of my other stuff. Also, feel free to take a look at our website. We've got more articles there, more in-depth versions of this too, where we go through more examples to really get this point home. So thanks for watching. Hope you found the content valuable.